All right, welcome back to another episode of the stream that we've not named yet, which is probably pretty bad. I mean, I've been doing this for at least in the new iteration, I've been doing it for 5 months, 6 months. So I got to get on that. Got to get a name for the stream so I can say welcome to. Anyways, I thought I would come on. This is not 2 nights in a row. I didn't do last night, did I? I can't remember if I did last night. Either last night or the night before, I came on here to talk about a couple of different items. And I said that I had nothing really to say about the CEO killer, the United Health CEO killer, murderer. I hadn't really looked into it enough. But it turns out there are some things I want to say about it. After listening to some of the reactions, and speaking of the reactions, that's the name of what I used to have my show's name when I had a different channel before I finally got my real channel back when I got out of YouTube jail. Just reminded me of it. But so I wanted to come on tonight to talk about the United Health situation. Daniel Penny was the topic of the last stream, and I think I really said all I need to say about that. I saw today that Daniel Penny did an interview. I guess it was for Fox Nation or something. It looked like it was with Janine Pirro, with Fox News. I saw a headline that said he was thinking of suing the DA for malicious something or other. I don't know if that's going to work. I think he still got to figure out what's going on with the civil case, because supposedly Jordan Neely's family was coming after him. So I don't know what's going on with that. But I basically said all I need to say about the Daniel Penny thing. I wanted to come on the night of the verdict. So I guess that was Monday night. Yes, so it wasn't last night. That was Monday night. I wanted to come on and talk about that. So tonight's topic, I have 2 topics. I don't know if I'm going to get to the second one. The second one, I do want to talk about it, and it's Canada is really freaking out about Trump trolling them. And I think I have a unique take on this because I grew up in Canada. I lived in Canada. That's probably breaking news. I know I'm Florida millennial because I live in Florida, but I spent many a year in Canada. And so I know my parents still live there. I know what it's like, and I know what the people are like, and I know what the government's like, and it's all playing out so predictably. So, it's kind of a humorous thing that Trump is being Trump and trolling them, and they're totally not getting it. They're taking it way too seriously. I mean, the tariffs are serious, but the subsequent stuff where Trump's now calling Justin Trudeau the governor of the great state of Canada, that is vintage Trump trolling, and they are taking the bait. So I kind of want to talk about that if we have time. But the main topic is the CEO killer, Luigi. I forget what his last name is, but I'm just going to call him Luigi. And after hearing a lot of what people had to say about this, a lot of times I like to wait. And I've told you this before. I told you this about the election, about Trump's election in November. I didn't really want to hop on here the night after and just spill my guts about what I thought about it. And there are a few reasons for that. I want to kind of let the dust settle a little bit. It's not that I'm waiting to see, which opinion I should take, or waiting to hear opinions and then, regurgitating them to you. I kind of want to make sure I have a handle on the situation. Now, obviously, we get to the point in this channel when I'm streaming every night, it's going to be instant reaction to whatever's going on. But sometimes I do like to wait a little bit, just to wait and see, because things things change. They're very fluid, and new information comes out. And I mean, if I were to have come on here the night after Trump's election win, his victory, and said a popular vote landslide, well, it didn't really turn out to be that way. They still had, what, half of California to count? I honestly don't get it. I don't understand how they take so long to count. I know there's a lot of people in California, but here in Florida, there's like, what, 23 million people? California is like, I don't know, 40? It takes Florida one night. It should take at the very most 3, 4 nights for California to count. But no, it takes a whole month. So, anyway, point is, we found out that the popular vote total was a lot closer than we realized. So, to come on the night after and say, oh, a popular vote victor, total landslide victory, that probably would not have been correct. So, that's my point about trying to come on too quick and make snap judgments and knee-jerk reactions. So I waited a few days to figure out what was going on with this thing. And what has been interesting to me is the amount of love and support for what this guy did. And to be honest with you, I can't really say that I'm shocked. Rush Limbaugh used to say that he knew leftists like every inch of his glorious naked body. Very classic Rush Limbaugh line. I like to think that I know them pretty well, fairly well. I've been around them long enough. I told you, living in Canada, you'll be around enough of them. So I kind of know how they think about things. And watching the reaction to the murder of this United Health CEO, I guess I should be getting his name right. But the murder of the CEO, the reaction, really to me, it sums up leftism and their worldview really in a nutshell, because it has every element of their attitude toward the world and what they believe wrapped up into one cute little box. The first one is envy and jealousy. At the core of the leftist, liberal, socialist, whatever you want to call it, progressive mind, and this goes all the way from like progressive academics to your layman kind of default lib out there. They really have a deep resentment and envy or jealousy. I know those are all kind of different things, but they're all in the same neighborhood toward people who have achieved, especially people who have achieved, businessmen, entrepreneurs, CEOs, executives who happen to be in industries where they really disagree that there should be a profit motive in that industry. And one of those things is health insurance. Now we can sit here and we can talk about health insurance all night long. We can make arguments for like government run on healthcare. Look, I can make some arguments in favor of it. I can sit here and I can extol the virtues of the private system as well, even though it has many problems. But they especially don't like they don't like high achievers to begin with, but especially high achievers who are in industries they hate. So for a long time, it was fossil fuels, oil, natural resources, those industries, they really did not like them. So oil executives, big oil, that was a big phrase back in, I would say, the mid 2000s, early 2000s, big oil, Halliburton. Shows you how far we've come. They used to always talk about Dick Cheney, like Dick Cheney was this evil oil guy from Halliburton or whatever, military industrial complex. Now they're like going to war with every country on earth, sending Ukraine all the money we can cough up. But anyway, so they really don't like achievers, but they especially don't like achievers in industries that they distrust and industries they hate. And health insurance is one of those industries that they really despise. And so you see people literally defending murder because here's the thing, a lot of them would like to do this. A lot of them have like fantasies about doing this, about killing people, these greedy tycoons and executives. And that is what's behind most of the hatred of Elon, by the way, is that he's so rich. And then he comes and he backs Trump, another rich guy they hate. So it really shows how, like, here's a guy, and I haven't even read the whole bio on him, but I saw something tonight about how I think he's from Iowa or something, worked his way up, and now he was CEO of this huge health insurer. And this is a guy who I don't know exactly what his background is, but to think that he's responsible for the whole private health insurance system, and to think that the solution to their opposition or their distaste for the health insurance industry is to go and murder the CEO. Very peculiar, isn't it? So that's the first. That's the envy, jealousy, and resentment. Then there's the second aspect of it, which is they seem not to put too much value on human life. I mean, we won't get into abortion, but it seems like they very easily discard it. And then these are the same people, many of them, who, if you truly got them in a room where they didn't care about who was listening, they would have been happy at the attempt on Trump's life. They would have wished it would have happened. They would have wished he would have succeeded. So these are people who they hate their enemies in private sector or in the public sphere so much they literally would like them dead. And then you see them looking at the Daniel Penny case, and they are so eager to protect the mentally ill, violent vagrant on the subway. So it's a very kind of warped mindset they have about things. And then the third aspect of it is you see women, and I guess some men who prefer men, who are out there talking about how good looking this guy is. And that is a huge piece of it. You're going to see a lot of women who are going to be very happy with this and they're going to love this guy. And half of it, more than half of it, is going to have to do with the guy's just good looking. So, it's shallow thinking, resentful thinking, envious thinking. That is really at the heart of what leftism and liberalism and progressivism really is. And once you get to the heart of it, that's what it's about. It's not about leveling the playing field. It's not about any of that. It's about getting even with people. And when it comes to economics, I mean, demographics, they're trying to get even with certain race. When it comes to economics, they're trying to get even with people who have succeeded, people who have a lot of money, people who've done well, people who are in high positions in the private sector, executives, businessmen, entrepreneurs, managers, whatever. They don't just distrust them, they hate them so much that they would literally have them murdered. And I was listening to, and as you know, sometimes I listen to the Megyn Kelly podcast. It's just, look, I sometimes I like to hear, especially during election time, I was listening because I like to hear what the kind of I when I was on David Chapman's show, I kind of coined the phrase the Megyn Kelly voter. It's like women who care about trans bathrooms and women playing or men playing in women's sports and that kind of thing. So because I've been listening to Megyn Kelly's podcast so much, it popped up and I thought, okay, let's see what she has to say today, see what's going on. And she's talking about how she was very surprised how the killer, Luigi, had this very normal background, and she went and listened to his I was going to say his inaugural address, his commencement. He was the valedictorian speaker for his class, and she went and listened to it, and she said, "Well, he sounds very normal, and he's got a kind of an impressive resume, comes from a well-to-do family." And this is another aspect of this that isn't really discussed as much as it probably should be, and that is that there are a lot of there are a lot of radical people out there who, we have an idea of what a radical or like dangerous person looks like or talks like or acts like. It's not really necessarily the case. A lot of people are being radicalized either through by being online or just through life experience. Now, it seems like this guy had some experiences with health insurance, his mom and himself. Now, I don't know if they were denied coverage or the bills were just racking up or whatever. And so that aspect I can understand because people do get pushed to their limit. But it's just interesting how they're excusing the murder. Like, is this if this is acceptable? This is the next point I want to make. This kind of gets to the heart of a big problem we have. And that is that if people are willing to condone this, what else are they willing to condone? Like, there's a sickness kind of in the population if a sizable chunk of people think this is okay or think this is justified. Because what are you going to do now? What are we going to? So now let's getting back to the oil company thing. I know it's not that much of a hot topic anymore because oil prices aren't what they used to be, but there was a time when that's all people spoke about. Are people going to go out and now take shots at oil execs or something? Like, is that going to be the solution to not liking the system? And you look at his manifesto, and he admits in the manifesto that he doesn't even fully understand it. He goes, "Well, I'm not really an expert or anything." It's like, what kind of manifesto is this? You're just saying, "Well, I'm resentful, I'm angry, but look, I'm not here to talk about the whole system. That's way too much for me." Like, heaven forbid you actually try and change the system from within. Not as easy as it sounds, I know. Um, But yeah, so Megyn Kelly's talking about how she's surprised. He's very normal. There are a lot of really normal people out there who are very radical and radicalized and are being pushed or shoved to one extreme through life experiences. And sometimes those life experiences and their anger and resentment because of it is justified. Um, it's just very troubling to me the amount of people who make excuses for it. Because that shows you that the problem isn't just that people are um, ill-informed about like market functions or the healthcare system and how it really works and what the real problems are. Or, the problem isn't really so much that people are resentful and they don't like the rich. The problem is people actually think it's okay to kill people over this stuff. And that's a big problem because I don't think people realize how close society always is to a tipping point, an anarchical tipping point. Like, things can kind of unravel pretty quickly without you realizing it. And if in fact this incident is an inspiration for other incidents, how, at what point does this stop? At what point does it end? And this kind of gets you thinking about maybe there may be a resurgence now of political terrorism or economic terrorism, if you want to call it that. We had a real, and someone talked about this on X. I can't remember who it was last night or the night before, but someone commented about how for quite some time now, I mean, Antifa has been pretty quiet for what, 4 years, 3 years, 4 years. And there hasn't really been any sort of uprising against the rich or the elite in any kind of meaningful way in terms of protests and civil unrest since Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street happened back in 2011, and it really kind of shows you how things have changed because in 2011, issues that people were talking about when it came to politics, it wasn't like it is today. But back then, it was the role of government and high taxes or low taxes and regulation or deregulation, because this was all in the shadow of the economic collapse and the financial crisis of 2008. So a lot of the havoc wreaked by that crisis ended up with a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, and a lot of um, political agendas being pushed that aimed to deal with the problems that were caused by both Wall Street and government in the 2008 collapse and leading up to it as well in 2007 with Bear Stearns and all that. So that was a huge topic back then. But, and I can remember exactly, Occupy Wall Street was happening the first month I started college, which was September of 2011. I started college in September, and that's exactly when Occupy Wall Street began. And I think it kept going throughout that fall. And if I'm not mistaken, it kind of dissipated when it got cold. Like people just didn't want to camp out anymore come November, December, January. And that's honestly how it kind of ended. And then Obama was reelected in 2012, and that was kind of maybe seen as a sign that, like, yeah, okay, the government maybe is listening. Obama was a big time regulation guy. Mitt Romney was a private equity guy who was defeated fairly easily in the 2012 election. So it kind of dissipated, and since then there has not really been the same sort of discussions being had. But you have to start to wonder if something like this could kickstart that or could set that into motion. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't know if maybe I'm kind of overreacting to it, if maybe that isn't in the cards, but it's interesting because these things, they go in cycles. Terrorism goes in cycles. Um, Major conflicts go in cycles. Economics, they go in cycles. And these kind of political resentments on different topics, like now all we talk about is immigration, which is amazing because I think it's a huge issue. Illegal immigration, legal immigration, third world migration, where they go, how they get there, all that stuff. That's all, that's a huge topic now because it's not just an American topic, it's a topic worldwide. It's an issue in Europe, it's an issue here, it's an issue in Canada. So it's an issue kind of wherever you go. And so, but we've kind of moved away, was my point. We've kind of moved away from the old topics, which were the role of government, Wall Street, that kind of thing. And I think, all of a sudden with this event, we could start to see more unrest in this realm. So something to keep an eye out for. But I just wanted to talk about how it's very disturbing. And this is the same reason why there's such a huge movement in the pro-life or pro-choice world, pro-abortion world, is because I do really believe there is kind of a disregard for life. And the guy kind of the attitude that this guy had it coming, and it's not right. This guy had a family too, and they go, well, what about all the families that were thrown off the insurance roll? A lot of these things are a lot more complicated than people make them out to be. Okay. I could sit here and talk to you about health insurance and the healthcare system and the pros and cons. I'm sure we could do an hour or 2 hour special stream on that and have all different people on talking about it. It's a lot more complicated than just these greedy bastards getting away with this stuff. So that's that. That's pretty much all I'm going to say tonight. Now, maybe tomorrow or next day, some new developments may come forth. I may see some things that trigger some thoughts, but that's about it. I mean, that's about all I have to say about it. So yeah, I mean, this guy, you look at his social media and you look at the kind of things he was reading and what he's looking at, and it's like very typical stuff. But what's interesting too, getting back to Megyn Kelly's comments, is that he wasn't really, you couldn't really pin him down ideologically, and that's not unusual, by the way. He followed a bunch of different people. Richard Hanania, who's like a far right guy, and then there's far right. And then he, has all these different, book tastes that might lead you to believe he's more liberal. But that's pretty normal. I mean, if you look at the people I follow, I follow a lot of right-wing people, but then I also follow Anna Kasparian. So, or like Bill Maher or AOC, or, so people, especially in that age group, are a lot more nuanced with their political views than one might think. So that's about it. I mean, I'm not drawing any conclusions other than we have probably a problem if people think it's okay to be, killing. Michael Venet. I never know how to pronounce your name. I'm just going to call you Michael. Was he religious? Does anybody suspect of psychotic symptoms? No, the only thing that they did say is that it's possible that he was on drugs. Now, he had a back injury. I think he had a back injury when he was surfing in Hawaii or something, which shows you this was not like a downtrodden dude living in the projects or something. He came from a prominent real estate family, I think. He had a back injury, and then supposedly he started going on psychedelics or something. I don't know. But from every indication from his past, there was nothing religious I didn't see. Psychotic symptoms, no. I think he had issues. He had a back injury. I also heard that his mom was having problems and excruciating pain, and I'm sure that something had to do with the insurance companies not covering her or something. I don't know. Again, I haven't read into detail about his past. I read the manifesto, and I've kind of heard a lot about his gripes, but I haven't read deep into his past or anything. But no, it doesn't seem like he was psychotic at all. It seems like he may have been on drugs. And if you look at him when they were bringing him in, he was freaking out and flailing and yelling. So he seemed a lot crazier then. But no, it seems like he was like one of these, what would you call him? Like a centrist radical or something. I don't know. He wasn't far right, far left. He was just ticked off. And if you read his manifesto, which is very short, I don't know if you could even really call it a manifesto. It sounds like just like your average liberal on Reddit talking about how the insurance industry sucks and how private healthcare sucks. There's nothing really deep there. There's nothing there that shows that he has a huge grasp on the issue other than that he's had a personal experience. And he was shouting about something to do with lived experience or something when they were bringing him in. So I don't know. But anyway, look, that's all. I don't know if you guys have thoughts about it, but I'm sure more news will break and there'll be a trial and everything else. So I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about him. But it's kind of early yet, so more news will come out, I'm sure. So that's that on that for tonight, at least. Okay, let's see. 33 minutes. Do I have time? Yeah, I probably have time to talk about the Canada stuff. By the way, tomorrow, it looks like Trump is going to be awarded the Person of the Year award from Time Magazine. I don't know how much clout that holds anymore, but it's still cool. Okay. Now, I want to be very careful because I'm not sure. It is possible. There's like a 1% chance that Politico is trolling us all here and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm seeing all these articles and all these posts, per Politico, Trump is going to win the time of the." It's like, I don't know, does that stuff leak easily? I've never heard of it leaking so soon. So that's that. So we'll see. We'll comment on that. He's supposed to also ring the opening bell at the stock exchange tomorrow. That'll be cool. Look, he's completely dominating. And I just keep saying, pray that they protect him. Pray that they keep him safe. Because look, as the topic of tonight's stream is, people have no regard anymore for life, it seems. So, the Canada stuff. Okay. I'll talk about it for a bit. So, when Trump initially indicated that he was going to slap tariffs on Canada and Mexico, immediately Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, flew down to Mar-a-Lago to presumably try and talk Trump out of it. Now, Trump's demand, which is reasonable, these are just and reasonable demands of a righteous people and a righteous public. Trump's demand was that Canada get tougher on its immigration, on its northern or on its southern border, on America's northern border, or else tariffs. Now, people totally freak out about this. They say, "Oh my God, the tariffs are coming down. Why is he doing this?" It's a negotiating ploy. It's a first offer. Doesn't mean that Trump says, "Okay, on January 20th, 25% tariff." No, he's saying, I will do that unless you deal with it. If you don't deal with it, the immigration issue, that is. And who knows the details of the border stuff that he's demanding, but I'm sure there's, it's not as porous as the Mexican border because more people want to come up than want to go down, but still. So he tweets that out. Trudeau flies down to Mar-a-Lago. 2 days later, or a day after, Trudeau meets with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. They took a picture and everything. They're looking chummy. There is a leak to the media that says Trump joked to Trudeau that if Canada can't withstand the tariffs, even though they're ripping the United States off to the tune of whatever it was, how many billions of dollars or millions or billions of dollars it was, if they can't withstand it, maybe they should just become the 51st state. Obviously a joke. But Trump was probably joking, but he was using it as a way to say, hey, guys, like, you're ripping us off and you still can't take the tariff. Maybe, you can't stand on your own 2 feet here. Jokingly, half jokingly, whatever it was. So then, of course, Trump goes full bore with this and just begins the troll. Okay. First thing he did was he tweeted out the AI image of him beside the Canadian flag in the mountains, which was like, whatever. Then he goes on to Truth Social and says that it was a great time meeting and having dinner with the governor of the great state of Canada, Justin Trudeau. And of course, Canadians are flipping out. And let me tell you why they're flipping out. It's a little more complicated, and I think I am the best person to explain this to you. Canadians have what could only be described as an inferiority complex when it comes to their relationship with the United States. Now, I have always said, and I have always joked, that Canada is the second most anti-American country next to Pakistan. And obviously, the anti-Americanism isn't the same. But here's the thing. The anti-Americanism in the Muslim world is based on religion, is based on America always like getting involved in Middle East affairs, wars over the years, conflicts, invasions, whatever, support for Israel, blah, blah, blah. The Canadian anti-Americanism is a lot different. It's like it's less rooted in foreign policy gripes and religious gripes, and more in sort of again, back to the old thing: envy, jealousy, inferiority complex. America's the big brother, and Canada's like the little sister who never gets any attention, and America's always sucking up all the oxygen. Anytime there's an economic crisis in America, Canada suffers too. America is also more right wing generally. Canada is pretty left wing. It's full of liberals and feminists and whatnot. So there's a lot of differences between the countries. I mean, look, if you drive almost anywhere in Ontario or Alberta, you basically think you're in the United States, with the exception of seeing some Tim Hortons around. Everything looks the same. It's been totally Americanized. Burger Kings, McDonald's, Walmart. Now you see Five Guys, Chick-fil-A. I saw Jersey Mike's at Union Station in Toronto a couple weeks ago, but when I was back visiting. But here's the thing: Canadians are very sensitive about the United States. Okay, so whenever America is flexing its muscle, Canada, they get a little squirmish about it. So this tweet from Trump, or this Truth Social post, it hit every Canadian nerve in the body politic of that nation. Okay, the inferiority complex, the hatred of right wing politics, everything, even the idea that he would call Trudeau the governor, first of all, because Canada doesn't have governors, they have premiers. So it's almost like Trump has already invaded America. It's been taken over in a day, and now it's like a mockery. Trump is making a mockery of Canada, okay, with this. Trump doesn't even know it either. He's just having fun. He's just trolling, and the Canadian heads are exploding. The Green Party leader, Elizabeth May, this is not funny. There's nothing funny about this. It's like, please, these people have no sense of humor. And now I see that Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, who, by the way, is a pretty conservative guy, and in 2016, I can remember Doug Ford being interviewed up in Canada and him saying, yeah, I'm for Trump 100%. Trump's the best. Trump should be president. Doug Ford is a very right-wing guy, but he also knows he has to run for re-election in a year or two, I guess 2026. So not next year, but the year after. So he knows he's got to play this a little bit different. And now Doug Ford is saying, well, in retaliation to the tariffs, we're not gonna ship energy down there. We're gonna starve out the northern US states. So it's just so perfect because Trump is hilarious. Trump loves to mock. Trump loves to bully, as they call it. And Canadians are very sensitive about this stuff. So it does not take much to completely set them off. And look, because I know it. I know how Canadians think. I grew up there. I lived there. Friends from there, family there. I just know. I know the Canadian psyche. And as I say, it's anti-American, but in a different way. It's not like anti-American, like like an infidel anti-American or something. It's like a little brother syndrome type anti-Americanism, if you will. So I just thought I would talk about that. It's kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But Trump, look, he is keen on flexing his muscle and making sure, and he knows, and he's one of the only leaders for some reason who realizes this. The way to get what you want is to use tariffs. Use tariffs as a threat because nations will respond to it because it will make an impact. Tariffs do hurt economies. And Trump isn't pro-tariff. He is pro-using tariffs as a negotiation tactic. And a lot of people don't understand this for whatever reason. I mean, there are many people who are very smart, otherwise very smart, who don't seem to realize what he's doing. And I think the reason for this is that Trump has a business mindset. Every other politician, almost every other politician, has a political mindset, a diplomatic mindset. They don't think about things in the same way Trump does. Trump's whole life has been, you do this or else I will do that. And people either capitulate and give him what he wants, or they fight back and they start negotiating and they come to a common ground, or they refuse outright and then Trump just goes at them hard as he can. Now, sometimes Trump has leverage, or Trump had leverage when he was a businessman. Sometimes he didn't. You can watch documentaries, and you can even watch the latest movie they made called The Apprentice. It addresses a lot of that in there. Sometimes he has a leverage, sometimes he doesn't. But he believes, and rightfully so, that now that he is going to be president of the United States, the most powerful nation on earth, he has the leverage once again. And he can make threats. And he can back up the threats. Because America is still America. The U.S. economy is still a behemoth. And so he's willing to throw his weight around. He's got an economy to back it up. He's got a military to back it up. He doesn't have a media to back it up because the media is totally anti-Trump. But to an extent, he has a population and an electorate backing him up, at least to the tune of 50%. I saw that his approval rating recently was 55, 56% or something like that, as an incoming president usually has. So he's going to do this, not just with Canada. The reason it's becoming such an issue with Canada is because Canadians are so, how they are and sensitive about it. But he's going to do the same thing. And he tells stories about doing the same thing with Macron. Remember Macron? He got him on the phone and said, I'm putting a tariff on the wine. And he said, no, sir, don't do that. And he said, nope, sorry, click. Gets a call back 2 minutes later. Okay, we'll deal with the problem, whatever the problem was. So point is, Trump wants to run America like he ran his real estate empire. And sometimes he can do that successfully, and sometimes he can't, because government is government and it doesn't work the same way. You can't just say, hey, do this and do that. And it's much more complicated, as he found out in his first term. So in his second term, he's trying to bring people in. And by the way, I don't agree with every single cabinet appointment. I mean, maybe that's a topic for another stream. It is a topic for another stream. I don't agree with every single cabinet appointment he's made or nomination he's made. But it seems like he's trying to back himself up with loyalists who will go to war for him, not literally, figuratively. In the case of Pete Hegseth, maybe literally. But he wants people to help him run the White House and make the White House as much like a business, as much like his real estate empire that he can, as he can. So that's what he's doing with these tariffs. And look, I'm not the first person to explain that. It's kind of known, but it seems that a lot of people still don't grasp it. They think that him saying 25% tariff is like a policy proposal that he's now going to try and push through the Congress. No, it's a threat. He fully intends there to be no tariffs. He wants there to be no tariffs. He's using the tariff threat to try and get what he wants done on immigration or on other topics. He uses tariffs as a weapon, and it is a very, very effective weapon at that. And so we'll see how it plays out with Canada. And look, Mexico too is involved in that, but they're not going to be the first. Trump is going to use that, and he's going to use whatever leverage he can. And then when he's dealing with other foreign policy in the Middle East, maybe he doesn't use tariffs because there aren't trading partners in the Middle East, or not all of the Middle East, some, but not all. So maybe he can't use tariffs in those situations. So instead, he uses other threats. He uses military threats. He will find whatever way he can to get a good deal. He is a deal maker. That is what he does best. I actually think Trump's real asset, they say, how can he run the country? This is stuff they used to say in 2016, by the way. How can he run the country? He has no political experience. Really, he has the perfect experience dealing with people in business, because that's all this is. He's dealing with Macron, he's dealing with Xi, he's dealing with Orban, he's dealing with Putin, he's dealing with Zelensky. It's all just give and take. It's all just negotiation. But Trump brands himself and prides himself on being a strong negotiator, on attacking, coming out on the attack, and making the other side come to him. So that's probably how it's going to work. Canada's going to say, okay, we'll do this. And he'll say, okay, tariff is down to 15%. They say we don't like 15%. Trump says do this instead. They're going to go back and forth. They come to a common medium. And the next thing you know, Trump and Trudeau, or maybe Trudeau's probably going to be gone soon. Trump and Poilievre, the new Canadian prime minister soon, will be lovey-dovey and everything will be fine. And that's how it is with Trump. So there's the one side, which is Trump trolling them and having fun, and Canadians not getting the joke, or getting the joke but being too insecure to admit it's funny. And then there's the other side of it, which is the actual negotiation, the actual tariff threat, which is a serious thing, and which he's doing and he's going to do with other nations, not just Canada. He's going to do it. And he's going to use the threat of economic tariffs for China, for Canada, for France, for Germany, whoever he wants, because it really is the best way. Money talks, both in life and in politics and in foreign policy. Countries do not want their economies ruined by levies and tariffs. And so it's a very effective tool that, for whatever reason, other leaders haven't used. Mind you, Biden kept in place a lot of the Trump tariffs from his first term. So what does that show you? All right. I think that's all for tonight. Daniel Penny is free. Trump is man of the year. I'm going to say man of the year. I don't care. I think he is. I am also coming up with, and I do this every year on my social media, my 10 most influential people of the year. And I am coming up with a list right now of that. And so, I mean, I think there are a couple obvious ones that I have to put on the list, but I always try and put some interesting ones on there. And these aren't people who I particularly like. It's just people who had a big impact, people who are big newsmakers, influential people. So, good, bad, ugly, whatever. People who were in the news a lot, people who had an impact on the culture, people who had an impact on politics, business, sports. So I'm compiling a list, and I'm thinking maybe this year I'll do some kind of show for it or something. Look, the problem is with this stream is I have a whole setup here. I have my studio here, my streaming computer and camera and mic and everything. And I had like 3 monitors. I have all that here. But then when I go home to visit, like I have to go home to my family for Christmas. When I go there, I have nothing there. I have no setup, so I can't do streams. And then, of course, like life gets in the way in general, and I can't always do streams. So I have a stream planned, by the way, with David Chapman in the new year. And so we'll do like a little collab there. And, I'm going to start trying to grow the channel again, because there's unfortunately, like a month or so there after the election where I wasn't able to stream as much. So, but I want to try and do it more often, because lots going on. New president, new administration, new Trump era, which promises to be entertaining. If the first one was entertaining, this one's probably going to be just as or more. So there'll be lots to talk about. And I like, look, as much as I come on here and I stream and I joke around and whatever, I do like talking about issues. And there are a lot of streamers out there, by the way, too, who probably became popular during the election just because they talk about data and polls. And I have to admit to you, after a while, I got tired of the polls talking about polling data because it's just like it's a complete crapshoot, and a lot of them are complete BS. A lot of them aren't even correct. A lot of them are way off, and we have to give them credibility. Like we weigh them into the average and everything. So, and in the end, it's kind of like talking about how you think the weather is going to be or something. So, I like talking about the policies. I like talking about the candidates. I like talking about who's up, who's down, reactions to certain things. So that was fun, but I'm kind of glad the election's over. I'm obviously glad that Trump won and he's going to be president again. And just need to make sure we protect him, keep him safe up until inauguration day and beyond, of course. So, but point is, I'm glad to kind of move on from the election because we were talking about, on my channel here before in 2020, I was talking about election, and that election ended, and then I didn't stream as much, and then I picked up kind of where I left off, and this was in like July or something, right? June, July, and it was just like polls, election, and so now the election's over. There's going to be a lot of big policy decisions made, a lot of appointments made, a lot of things happening, and I will be here to talk about them all. And I'm just looking forward to being able to talk about real things again and not just like who's up in Pennsylvania, Not that that wasn't enjoyable to talk about, but after a while, it's like, okay, that's enough. So, and having to check Nate Silver's website every day, and having my mood fluctuating with how the 538 average is. It's just not something I want to be doing anymore. And I'm sure, before we know it, it's going to be like the midterms or something. So I'm glad. I'm glad we'll get to talk about fresh stuff and have some fresh takes. And look, I intend to not just talk about politics either. As I say, this was a good example. This United CEO tragedy, which really it is a tragedy, and like people are joking about it. I saw Tim Miller, that Jeb Bush's old campaign manager, I think he was, or press secretary or something. He's going on about, oh, this guy is so good looking. Oh, look at his abs. Oh, I wish I could, what? It's like, oh, please, like seriously. It's just so freaking disturbing, like for them to be looking at a murderer and be like talking about how like good looking he is. Maybe if you joke about it once, but like seriously, because they're not just joking, they're serious, and that they kind of support what he did. And there are people openly supporting it. So, all these leftists saying like we're not going to have Thanksgiving dinner with our Trump supporting relatives because we can't be in the company of people who want us dead. It's like, first of all, that's not how we are. Second, I think they are, if anything, it should be the reverse. Now, I'm not endorsing that, by the way. Go have Christmas dinner with your family. Don't talk politics, blah, blah, blah. But like, seriously, really, it should be the reverse. Like, they're out there blatantly talking about how they're glad that a CEO got murdered. And we're supposed to, like, maybe we should be like, hey, you guys need to tone it down a little. Maybe let's skip the family gathering this year because we're kind of afraid, we don't really know what you're up to. Like, we know you hate us, but if you hate us that much, maybe it should be the opposite. They shouldn't be running away from us. We should be running away from them. No, I'm kidding. Go and have dinner. Don't cause conflicts with your family. But it's just kind of an eye opener that like leftists seriously just want people dead. Like it's like, and you saw it with the Trump assassination attempt and how they acted, and now you're seeing it here again. Very sick, very, very sick people out there who have joy in, like, I don't know if they think that the United Health CEO is sitting there like with like monitors like I have here, like looking at every single claim, deny. Like, no, that's not how it works. Again, oversimplifying a very complicated issue. But anyway, I've talked about that enough tonight. Okay, thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Click the bottom right-hand corner. Subscribe to Florida Millennial on YouTube. Follow me on X, FLA Millennial. That's at FLA Millennial. I'm not going to give you my Instagram right now, but follow me on X, Twitter/X, and subscribe to me here on YouTube. Again, I'm going to try and do more and more live streams. We have to name the show too. This is ridiculous. I can't just come on here and be like, welcome back to whatever it's called. So, and by the way, the show that I did the other night, I took off my headset, I hit mute, and I got vertigo right away afterwards. I have no idea what happened. So let's hope it had nothing to do with the ring light or something. I don't know what's going on, but let's hope after I log off tonight, all's good, all's steady. All right, thanks a lot, everybody, for watching. I will see you hopefully tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, but whenever I see you, I'll see you. Thank you. God bless.